Okay, this is the video for Geometry Honors for Tuesday, May 26th. How can we find arc length? Do now. You and your friends are sharing a pizza pie that is cut into 8 slices. You can actually pause, do the do now and that first. But if someone took 2 slices, what percent of the pizza is left? Well, there would be 6 out of 8 slices left. And then on your calculator, if you do 6 divided by 8 and then multiply by 100, you end up with 75%. What percent of the crust is left? Well, it's the same thing. 6 over 8 is equal to 75%. If the radius of the pizza pie is 8 inches, how much crust is left? Okay, well, circumference is equal to 2 pi r. So 2 times pi times 8 is 16 pi. Okay, so 75% of the 16 pi is left. Of in math means multiply. 0.75 times 16 pi is equal to 12 pi. Okay, so the answer is 12 pi. How can we determine the length of each highlighted arc? The first one, the whole entire thing is highlighted. Circumference is equal to 2 pi r or pi d. Circumference is equal to 2 times pi times 6. The circumference is equal to 12 pi. Okay. For this one over here, the arc this much, well, what fraction is of the whole thing? The whole thing is 12 pi. So we could do part is to whole is part is to whole. We can say 120 over 360 is how much out of the 12 pi? The 12 pi is from it was the same circle as before, so the circumference was 12 pi, which we knew. Part is to whole is part is to whole. 360x is equal to 1,440 pi. Divide both sides by 360, and x is equal to 4 pi. Now, so to find arc length, there are really 2 ways to do it. One way is to do this part is to whole as part is to whole, or the central angle out of 360 degrees is equal to whatever the arc length is over the whole circumference. That's not the only way to do it. Another way is to say S is arc length. S equals arc length. That you just take the angle out of 360 and you multiply it times the circumference. So what fraction of the circumference is it? So that's another way of doing it. Okay? Both are correct. Find the length of minor arc AB here. The minor arc AB. So first I would need to know what the circumference is. The circumference is equal to 2 pi r. 2 times pi times 3 is 6 pi. And then I can say 80 out of 360 is how much out of 6 pi? Cross multiply, 360x is equal to 480 pi. Divide both sides by 360, and x is equal to 4 pi over 3. X is equal to 4 pi over 3. Next page. Shall we? We shall. Okay. What is a radian? Okay, I need to get my marker. Hold on 1 second. I thought I had it out, but I did not. Okay. Let's see if this is going to be dark enough. A radian is the angle made by taking the radius and wrapping it along the edge of a circle. The angle made by taking the radius and wrapping it along the edge of a circle. Okay. So now, theta is equal to S over R. If you put this over 1 and cross multiply, you get S equals theta R. Or you can also get S equals R theta. R is the radius. Theta is the central angle in radian measure. It must be in radian measure. If it was in degrees, you would have to convert it to radian measure. So here, S is the arc, theta is the central angle. In radian measure, R is the length of the radius. Sometimes people can see it as S equals R theta. That would be the same thing. Multiplication is commutative. What is the circumference of this circle? Well, circumference is equal to 2 pi r, still. How many degrees are represented by the arc of this circle? Well, 360 degrees is equal to 2 pi radians. That's like, so if the radius is just 1 unit, 2 pi r would be 2 times pi times 1. 360 degrees is 2 pi radians. 180 degrees is pi radians. Okay. Now, again, so if this was a unit circle, that'd be a 1 unit. Radius would be 1. 2 times pi times 1 would be 2 pi. So that's how that works. Degrees to radians, you multiply times pi over 180. To get from radians to degrees, you multiply by 180 over pi. Whatever you're going into, if I want to go into degrees, then I want the degrees on top. If I want to go into radians, I want the radians on top. So 30 degrees, well, I want to convert to radians, so I multiply times pi over 180. 30 goes to 180 6 times. It's equal to pi over 6. 150 degrees, 150 times pi over 180. 30 goes to 155 times into 186 times. It ends up being 5 pi over 6. Pi over 6. Now I want to go to degrees. I put the 180 on top. Multiply times 180 over pi. The pi's cancel. 180 divided by 6 is 30 degrees. And 5 pi over 2 times 180 over pi. The pi's cancel. 5 halves times 180. 2 goes into 180. 90 times 5 is 450 degrees. Okay? So that's converting degrees to radians and radians to degrees. You'll be doing a lot of that when you do trig in Algebra 2. Okay. Now, there are 8 problems. I'm going to do 3 of them with you, and you're going to have 5 to do on your own. So, Jack wants to plant a border of flowers in the shape of an arc along the edge of a circular walkway. If the circle has a radius of 5 yards and the angle subtended by the arc measures 1.5 radians, what is the length in yards of the border? Now again, you should have the sheet printed out so you know what it says. S is equal to theta times R. Some call it SOR, S-O-R. S is equal to the 1.5 radians. That's the central angle that goes here. R is the radius, which is 5. So the arc is equal to 7.5 yards. Okay, we'll do two more. An electron travels along a circular path with a radius of 4.6 miles. What is the number of miles to the nearest tenth the electron traveled during an interval when the central angle formed by the electrons path was 220? Well, 220 degrees. We can't use degrees if we're going to use SOR. We have to use, well, there's two ways to do this problem. I'm going to do it both ways. If I want to use S equals theta R, then I have to find out what the degrees is in radian measure. So 220 times pi over 180 is actually 11 pi over 9. So now if I do S equals theta R, 11 pi over 9 times 4.6 is approximately 17.7. Okay, that's 17.7. The other way to do this problem is to say, well, 220 degrees, it's 220 over 360, it's 220 3/60ths of the circumference, and the circumference is 2 pi r, so 2 times pi times 4.6 is approximately 17.7 as well, okay? Or I could have found the circumference into 220 out of 360 equals x out of whatever that's equal to, and I would have gotten the same answer. Lastly, in the diagram below, circle 1 has a radius of 4, while circle 2 has a radius of 6.5. Angle A intercepts an arc of length pi, and angle B intercepts an arc of length 13 pi over 8. Dominic thinks that angles A and B have the same radian measure. State whether Dominic is correct or not, and explain why. We have A, S equals theta R. So pi is equal to theta times 4. Divide both sides by pi, theta is equal to pi over 4. And B, it's 13 pi over 8 is the arc, equals theta times 6.5. Divide both sides by 6.5. And theta is equal to pi over 4. Dominic is correct. They both have an angle measure pi over 4. Because both have an angle measure of pi over 4. Okay, so you're going to hand it all in, and it's going to be, you have to do numbers 4 through 8 to finish. And you're really handing it all in, though. Hope you're all doing well. That was that. This packet is due, this handout is due Tuesday night by 11:59 p.m. Be good, everyone. Have a good day.